What it do, YouTube? It's your girl Jay, and I'm back with another video. So as you guys can see by the title, I'm gonna go ahead and do the story time video for you guys about some of you guys follow me on social media, and you probably have seen a post that I posted, and I was saying that it was one of the scariest moments of my life that I had. So before we get started, if you're new to our channel, make sure you go ahead and hit that notification bell. Make sure you thumbs up this video, comment down below your thoughts, ideas, or anything of that sort. But I did want to be transparent and share a little with you guys about the experience that I recently had with Dunna's asthma. And yeah, let's just get straight into this video, you guys. Okay, so I would say about 2 weeks ago, well, let me back up. If you're new to our channel, you guys probably don't know, but Dunna has chronic asthma, and we deal with this kind of not necessarily on a daily basis. We do, but we don't. But it's very often that we have to deal with it and take precautions and safety measures and stuff just to ensure that he won't get sick or end up in the hospital. And Dunna's been, he's born with asthma. He's had asthma since he was a baby. He's been incubated, which if you guys don't know what that is, I'll try to insert a picture or the definition of what incubation is. But pretty much incubation, all it is that they stick a tube down your throat into your airways to open up your lungs, and it pretty much just pushes air, not necessarily pushes, it's a machine that breathes for you because you're not able to on your own. So that's happened to him once before, and I believe he was 10 years old. His family has always told me about that time that happened, and like how they explained it, it was very scary and like traumatic. So recently, so I had to go back to 2 weeks ago. We were just hanging out. His cousin was over. We went to his grandma's house, ate dinner with her. We were just hanging out. He was cool, and I had noticed that he was wheezing. So I'm like, hey, do you need to go to the emergency room? Are you good? Or do you need to take a treatment? Like, what do you need to do? I can tell when his asthma is bothering him. I could either hear him wheezing. I hear him wheezing, or I could just tell he gets tired a lot. He has to use an inhaler a lot. So I noticed he was wheezing. So I asked him, I'm like, do you need to go to the emergency room? He's like, no, I just need to take a treatment, which is his nebulizer, which is an albuterol machine, and it kind of steams it, and you just inhale it, and usually that will help with wheezing and shortness of breath if your inhaler doesn't work. So he was like, yeah, I just need to take a treatment when we get home. So we just recently moved, and the place that we stayed at before where we moved in now is literally probably like 5 to 7 minutes away. So he was like, when we get to the house, I'm gonna just use my machine and see if that works. So okay, cool. Mind you, he's telling me like it's not bad, and usually he'll let me know if it's bad or not. So we get here, and we're like looking for the machine. I'm like, oh, I think we left it at the old house, so I'll go back over there and get it. So I go, and by the time I get back, he like takes the machine. He takes his medicine. It doesn't work, and so he's like, man, I'm just super tired. I'm like, I just need to go to the emergency room. I'm like, okay, come on. So his sister lives with us, and we're like, I took our kids downstairs to her, and within a matter of moments, he's like, yeah, I need to go to the emergency room. So I'm like, okay, let's go. So he walks to the front of the house, and I go get the keys. He walks to the front of the house. By the time I get back to the front of the house, he's like really shortness of breath, and I'm noticing it. And it's at this point I'm noticing that he's uncomfortable. So I'm like, I pulled the car from the carport to the front of the house, so it'd be a shorter distance he had to walk. So I'm like, you good? You're okay? He's like, can you call the hospital and let them know that we're coming? And since we've dealt with his asthma so much, like I've done that in the past, and they told us like they can't do anything as far as me notifying them and letting them know we're coming. I could call the ambulance and then they would send an ambulance, but if I was bringing him, then they would see us when we got there. So I'm like letting him know, like, we just gotta get there, so come on, so I can get you there and get you feeling better. So like I said, I'm noticing like he's very shortness of breath and exhausted at this point. So I'm like, okay, like this is kind of serious, and I can tell in his face like it's a bad one. So get him in the car, and I notice that he's like working very hard, like he's breathing really heavily, and like he's like trying not to like be lynched over or anything, like leaned over or anything. He's like straight up sticking his head out the window. So I don't know, I'm in panic mode at this point. It's like we've been together for almost 10 years and I have not gotten used to him having asthma attacks. Like I don't feel like I'll ever get used to that because it keeps you on your P's and toes. I had a pulmonary embolism 7 years ago, and the short period of time where I felt like I couldn't breathe definitely put in perspective of how he feels every single time he has asthma attacks. So I don't play any games. I'm like, okay, let's go. Like I rush, I do whatever I need to make sure that he's okay. So we get in the car, and I literally turn the hazard lights on, and I'm literally doing like 80 to 100 down the road. I don't care. At this point, cars moving out the way. I'm running red lights. If I get a ticket, I get a ticket. If I get pulled over, you're gonna have to come to the hospital because I'm not pulling over. So he's like, slow down, telling me to slow down. I'm like, dude, sit back. I'm about to get you there. So we pull up in the front, and like I understand that you guys have precautions and safety measures and stuff, but sometimes I feel like in emergency situations that stuff has to be bypassed. Like the security first stops me, like, who's being seen? I'm like, my husband's having an asthma attack, like I need to get in here and get in there. So he's like, okay, go ahead and go in. So I asked him for a wheelchair because he can't walk at this point. Like it's just too tiring for him. So I get a wheelchair and I pull him in. So I pull him in, and the receptionist, like, I don't know, it kind of really irritated me thinking back to it, because any other time we come in there, everybody knows Dunna, like, they be like, oh, hey, you're having an asthma attack, they get another nurse. If they're busy, get another nurse and get them all checked in. But she's literally like taking her time, asking the woman in front of us like 1,000,005 questions, and I'm looking at her like, come on, my husband's literally having an asthma attack, like, you need to speed up the process or call somebody else. So I'm just getting a little frustrated at this point, and he's like telling me like, come on, hurry up, I need oxygen. So I see a nurse come walking from the back, and I'm like, hey, excuse me, can you get my husband some oxygen? He's having a really bad asthma attack. And so he's kind of like, to me, he had an attitude because I think he was going on break. And he's like, yeah, I'll be with you in a second. And so I'm like, no, I need you to come on right now. So, so Dunna's like, at this point, he's like, I'm hot, taking me back outside. So wheel him outside, and by this time the nurse is falling, and he brings out the pulsometer. Anyways, the little reader that you put on your finger that reads your pulse and your oxygen level. So he brings that out, and I'm like, dude, that's not oxygen. So he brings it out, and I see that Dunna's oxygen level is at 43%. So I'm a little freaked out at this point because, like I said, I've been with him for 9.5 years, and usually if he's having an asthma attack, the lowest I've ever seen his oxygen level was probably like 90. One time he was sick, it was like 88, but that's the lowest I've ever seen it. So I'm like, I'm scared now. So I'm looking at Dunna, and Dunna's like literally like starting to turn white and pale in his face, and I'm like looking at the nurse because like I'm like, that's not normal. That's not like, no, something's not right. I mean, so I asked him because I need clarification. Like, did I really just see that it said 43%, or am I tripping? Because please let me know. So I asked him, I'm like, hey, what does his oxygen level say? And he's like, it's very low. It's really, really low. So like, we need to get him in the back. And I'm like, okay, but you couldn't just like confirm what I just saw. But I understand that their job is to get them the help they need and to the patients, and to also not freak the patient or the people that they're with out, because they don't need to make things worse. So I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. I know what I saw. So at this point, he's like, come to the back. We're going to the back. So I'm like, that's what I was telling you guys from the beginning. So like I said, I noticed Dunna's face is literally turning pale. His lips are literally turning white. And so they start pushing us to the back, and he's like, just stand right here in the hall. They're wiping down the room, and then we're gonna get him in as soon as they're done. And I'm like, okay, cool. So Dunna's like, come here. And I'm like, but mind you, he's breathing very heavily. His face is starting to turn white. He's just very like antsy and just moving to try to, you know, open up his airways. At least it's like a panic mode he's starting to go through. So we're standing out in the hall, and he's like, come here. And I'm like, what's up? Like, just stay focused. You know, we're about to get the help you need. You're good. We got you. Like, I'm just trying to keep him calm and reassure him that he's okay. I'm not going to tell him just breathe, because anybody knows that when you're having an asthma attack, that's like the worst thing to say. Like, do you think if I could breathe, I would be sitting here going through what I'm going through? So I'm not telling him to just breathe. I'm just like, you're all right. Just maintain, just focus. You know, they're about to come help you. They're about to give you everything you need, and you're going to be good. So he's like, just like it's terrifying, you guys. Like, I've dealt with 3 encounters now in my whole life that has scared me so bad where like I was just speechless. The first one being is losing my daughter, having a stillbirth. That left me speechless, and just like the process of that, which that's a whole nother story. If you guys want to know more about that, let me know. I'll do an updated video. Also, if anybody knows, last year my mom had a heart attack, and I thought I was gonna lose her, and that was, seeing my mom how I seen her was something that I never wish anyone has to see, because I literally thought I was gonna lose her, and that messed me up. And also now this would be the 3rd incident, which would be like thinking I was gonna lose Dunna. But so he's like, come here, and he's like, I love you, and like kept repeating it. He's like shaky, and his eyes were like, you guys, his eyes were so big, like wide open, like, and he's like gasping for air, like trying to breathe, and he's telling me like, I love you, and I'm just so scared. I love you. And I'm like, don't, no, we're not doing that. You're not about to tell me you love me and stop fighting. What you're gonna do is keep fighting, and you're not gonna tell me that. Like, at this point, I'm just like freaking out now. Like, I need to call somebody, because I've never seen him like this. So he's literally gasping for air, you guys, and I'm just standing there feeling so helpless. Like, what do I do? What can I do? Like, I can only tell you, like, I'm here for you. I'm gonna make sure they're gonna do everything they can to make sure you're better, but I can't physically do anything for you. And I hate that feeling, because it's like, I feel like he's suffering at that point, and I'm not doing anything to make it better or take the pain away. So it was messing with me. It was messing with me bad. So they get him wheeled into the room. At this point, like, he's like, babe, like, I can't breathe, like, I'm scared. Dunna, if anybody knows Dunna will never in his life tell you he's scared. He'll never tell. Like, when our baby passed away, he didn't even cry in front of me, because he wanted to be strong and there for me, and just, you know, very supportive. Like, I've seen Dunna cry once. Like, he's a very strong person, and he's very, like, when it comes to emotions, he hides them very well. Like, you won't really see the sadder side of him. So that was different for me, and that is what scared me, to just like know that something was wrong. So they wheeled him into his room, and they're like, can you stand up? And he's like, excuse me. They stand him up, and he's just like standing there shaking, but like shaking super bad. And I'm like, what is going on with him? Like, I've never seen him like this. So I call my mom because I'm literally like trying to stay calm for him and his face, but at the same time I'm freaking out. Like, I've never seen it this bad. I don't know what to do. I tried calling Dunna's mom, but she was asleep. She has to work in the early morning, so like usually she puts her phone on D&D around a certain time, and I think it was around like 10 o'clock when all this was happening, so she was already asleep. So I'm just like freaking out. I don't know what to do. I tried to call her. She wasn't answering, so then I called my mom, and my mom's like, she noticed it in my voice. She was just like, what's wrong? And I just like let her know what was happening, but I was just freaking out, you guys. Like, I didn't know what to do. So yeah, they get him in the room, they get him in the bed, and he's just like shaking, like non-stop shaking. And they're like asking him his name and stuff. He's not responding to them. Like, he's just like shaking and like rocking back and forth. Like, at this point, I'm just like, can somebody please do something to him? Because you guys are just moving a little too slow for me. At this point, like, what do I need to do? Somebody hand me a needle so I can get this IV going. Like, I'm just gonna like, not necessarily frustrated, but I'm scared. So it's like, I'm just like, come on, we need to move faster. So the nurse that checked his vitals, so the other nurse, like, hey, or the doctor, because the doctor came immediately, he told her, he was like, hey, so when they came in, his oxygen level was at 43%, his pulse was this and that, and like, he needs to be, like, we need to get him going ASAP because it's not looking good. So she's like, okay, should we incubate him? And they're like, the respiratory nurse or doctor, I should say, I'm not sure if he's a doctor or nurse, but he sees Dunna quite a bit when he goes to this hospital, so he already knew. Like, he brought the BiPAP machine in. And if you don't know what a BiPAP machine is, I'll insert a picture of how it looked on Dunna, but what it is a machine that pushes, like forces air into your lungs. And yeah, because you can breathe out, but sometimes it's hard to like get the air in, and that's why he was like gasping, because he wasn't getting enough air in. So the BiPAP eliminates all that, and it just forcefully puts air into your lungs. And yeah, so it's like a gas mask kind of, and it goes like this and straps around your head. So he brings that in, and they're like asking him his birthday, all this stuff. I'm just like responding for him because he's not responding. And then they're trying to get IVs in his arm. So they try to get an IV in his hand, his right hand, and he was like moving and it, like clenching his fist, so the veins kept collapsing. And so they finally got it in on the right hand, and then he like, I believe they got it in, and then he like flexed his hands. He was like clenching his fist, and it collapsed, and it just started gushing blood everywhere. And then they tried to do it again, and he pulled it out. But they're like, he's pulling his IV out. We don't want to have to sedate him, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, he's never done this. Like, I'm telling them, I'm like, he's never done this. Like, I really think he's doing this because he's like having a panic attack. And they're like, yeah, he's having a panic and anxiety attack. Like, that's why he's shaking. He's just kind of like in shock right now. And I'm like, me too. Like, what are we doing? What do we need to do? Like, so I'm trying to calm Dunna down. I'm like holding his hands, like trying to talk to him, making him look me in the eye, because he's just literally like, you guys, I should have just tried to get more pictures, but I was just so worried about him that I wasn't caring about no picture, no video, no nothing. But his eyes were so big, like, it just like when you see somebody scared, like so freaking big, and then he's just gasping for air. And it was freaking, and then the doctor just kept telling me, he's all right. He's all right. I'm like, no, by the looks of my husband, he is not okay. And so they try to get the IVs in his hand. They finally get it. They do one of his left arm, and they get him hooked up on magnesium, which that usually helps. It works well. And then they gave him some steroids in his IV, and they also gave him an adrenaline shot, which was to speed up his heart rate, because his heart rate was low. When they hooked him up in the room, everything was like at 100, and then it slowly started dropping from like 100, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 0. And then it went back up to 80, 60, 40, 30, 20, 10. Like, it kept fluctuating. She's like, oh, that's not accurate, because she can see in my face like I was freaking out. But they gave him the shot of adrenaline, and it seemed like it did help. But then they gave him some other medicine to counteract it because his heart rate was getting too high. And so he was just like really literally doped up on so many meds, because they were just feeding them to him to get him basically steady and stable. So once they gave him the adrenaline, and then I forget what the other medicine is called that they gave him to slow down his heart rate, or not slow it down, but to like slow it down. I forget what that one's called. But once they gave him that and put him on the BiPAP, he was like good. He was better. And I was a little bit more like at ease feeling, because I knew like at this point things are getting better. It's working, you know. So she's like, the doctor, she comes in and she's like, okay, he's stable now. And it probably took about an hour and a half to 2 hours to do all this. Like literally, because they had to find methods and medicines that was gonna work, and they were just having to have everybody in the room on the same page. Literally, there was probably like 6 to 8 nurses in the room, doctors, whatever. And so and the crazy thing is like everybody that knows Dunna at this hospital were coming by and like, hey, is this such and such? Like, I haven't seen him in a while, and wow, this is the worst I've ever seen him. And it's just like, yeah, me too. And so, which I'm very thankful and very blessed for everybody that had played a factor in getting Dunna back to how he is today. Like, they all worked pretty fast and did what they needed to do to get him better. And so the doctor comes in once he's steady and stable, and she's like, so we're gonna run some blood tests. Well, they ran a blood test, and she was like, we're gonna run it again. Or no. They ran blood test twice. And it was for his, what did they call it? CO2, which is the carbon dioxide in his blood. They did 2 blood tests for that. And so a normal person, when you breathe in, carbon dioxide's in your body. So you breathe out and it comes out, the carbon dioxide. With Dunna, he was just like breathing in and breathing in, and it was just building up in his blood. And they say usually when that happens, like, you get really tired and exhausted and your body can't work on its own. So that's why they was potentially thinking about putting him through the incubation period, which is just that tube down his throat. And they were gonna do that if his levels were still high when they did the 3rd blood test. So she's like, what do you want to do? Because I know you're like his person that if anything happened, you know, I can speak for him. I was like, well, I don't want him to have to be incubated if he doesn't have to. So can we run his blood test one more time? And I mean, if the 3rd time it comes back high again, then by all means, just go ahead and do it. We got to do what's best for him. So she's like, okay, yeah, we can do that. So she runs it again, and literally by now it's probably like, I want to say like 3 or 4 in the morning. And so I'm like, yeah, let's just do it again. So I'm waiting to hear back what they say. And she's like, okay, good news. His levels are regular again, so we're not going to have to incubate him. But you can go home because he's going to be transferred to ICU and due to COVID, blah, blah, blah. You can't have people in there. And I'm like, okay, cool. But it's hard for me to sleep without Dunna. It's hard. Like, I cannot sleep. I toss, I turn. And when I came home, I literally stayed up to about 6:30, and that's when he texted me. And then another thing, like, so when we got there, his phone problem was like 10%. And so I had to text all his clients and let them know, like, he had to cancel his appointments because I just said it was an emergency. I didn't want to put his business out there. If he wanted to tell him, he could, but I was just telling them, like, hey, you're gonna have to cancel, blah, blah. And so his phone ended up dying. And I had a charger cord but no box. So I'm like, man, like I hope they'll be able to give him a charger so he can let me know. And I just get so worried and anxious, and it's just like a bad feeling. I'm such an overthinker, so I'm just like, please, like, you know, I prayed the whole time, and God definitely had his hand on doing it. It wasn't Dunna's time. Like, looking back at it, I just was freaking out because I'm like, Lord, please don't take my husband from me. Like, oh, so mind you, okay, so before I leave, the doctor, she comes in, she's telling me about his levels is good. She tells me, like, usually if people get down to 40% oxygen level, most of the time they go into a coma because of how low their oxygen is. It stops airflow to the brain and other parts of the body, and the body starts shutting down and like killing itself. And she was like, that was why they were working so fast, because him being in the state of mind that he was in at the time could have caused damage to his brain, his liver, his lungs, his organs. Like, it could have been killing him. So they were like, that's why we're working so fast. So being told that, like, it scared me. Like, I never want to see Dunna like that. Like, he doesn't understand. I feel like, I mean, he understands the asthma part of it, but like watching your loved one go through something like that and like experiencing that, like, I just felt like what am I doing? Like, I can't do anything to help him. So I was really scared about that. But yeah, 40%, guys. Like, he was literally 3% away from literally being in a coma. And it freaked me out. Like I said, I've never seen his oxygen be so low. His oxygen's only the lowest I've ever seen it was like 88%. The lowest. So 40%, 43%, you guys, that's super low. Super low. And so I just literally stayed up, and I ended up like dozing off for literally like 20 minutes, and he texted me, and I was just so freaking happy. I'm like, thank you, Jesus. And he was just telling me he felt better, and he's just super tired, and he was texting me on and off. So I felt more like better, because at this point I'm like, okay, he's good, you know, he's responsive. Because the whole time during that whole thing, like, I'm talking to him, he's not really responding to me. They're talking to him, he's not responding to them at all. And how I knew that he was still like there and mentally is I grabbed his hand, and I'm like, if you can hear me, squeeze my hand. And he literally was squeezing my hand so hard, like he was making my hand turn white. And the nurse seen it, she was, okay, he's good. Like, it was even reassuring for her. And that's what made me feel like, okay, he knows I'm here. And so yeah, it just made me feel better that he texted me and was talking to me. So the next day goes, I go up there, and they're like, he had acute respiratory failure. And so we don't know what triggered it. We don't know what happened as far as like what made him get to this point. And he sees his pulmonologist, and we came up with a game plan as far as him getting allergy shots, because we don't know if certain things he goes around is triggering him, or like certain allergies are triggering his asthma. But we're going to take the steps that we need to get him to the point where he can live more like free, because right now he has so many restrictions. Like, he can't go to people's houses that have big dogs, cats, people that smoke, dirty houses. It's just like a lot of things, and who wants to live by limitations, you know? So we're just doing the things we need to do to take the right steps to get him the help he needs, and to figure out what we can do to help prevent so many triggers of flare-ups, because before that, he was probably in the hospital 3 weeks before he just went. So we've just been trying to figure it out, take it slow, take it easy. He's been taking his medicine faithfully. So you guys just keep doing your prayers, and just pray that hopefully one day he can live asthma free. Like, I feel like that would be such a blessing, and I feel like that would be so great for him. I would love to see him without having to live like that. it's stressful and it's hard, and he's such like a hard worker and outgoing person that he's never gonna like limit himself because of his asthma. Or like the day he got out of hospital, we were still moving, and this boy goes and moves more stuff. I'm literally like calling everybody I know, like, I need your help moving, so he doesn't have to do it, and he ends up doing it anyways. Like, that's the type of person he is. He's never gonna back down to anything, and I love him so much. And I just pray that we can find a cure or something that helps him either grow out of this asthma, or something that'll just eliminate as much as he goes to the hospital. But yes, you guys, this is my story time of about the experience where I thought I was gonna lose Dunna. And but I cried about it, I prayed about it, and like I said, the devil was busy that day, but God had his hand on him and he didn't let him go anywhere. So I'm forever blessed, and I'm just gonna keep praying and just kind of keep doing research as far as what we can do for his asthma, his health, to get better. So without further ado, you guys, this has been an exclusive storytime video with your girl Jay. Make sure you go ahead and give a thumbs up and comment down below if you guys want to hear more story times or more videos. Like I said, this is like the third experience within the last year, and I'm just like, man, like I just feel mentally like drained from going through stuff like this. But if you guys want to hear more storytime videos or pranks, challenges, let us know down in the comment section below. Without further ado, peace.